Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Switch to Life. And in today's video, we are going to be reviewing the final Lilo and Stitch installment of the main series, that of course being Leroy and Stitch, which serves as both a finale to the TV show as well as the fourth movie of the franchise. So with that in mind, let's talk about it. First off, the animation. The animation is actually an improvement from the TV show, which is saying something because for the past while, each animation has gotten worse and worse and worse with each new installment. For once, we actually got one that got better animation. Still not as good as the first movie, but again, this is a TV show budget, so you know. Then, of course, there's the voice acting, which pretty much everybody returns with the exception of David, who isn't even in this movie. Also, while Cobra Bubbles does have some new lines in this movie, it's as a voicemail. He doesn't actually show up in this movie. So, with that in mind, I do like the fact that most of our characters managed to return. Though, once again, Nani has been sidelined, and while she does appear, and she even has some really meaningful lines, she has less than 2 minutes of screen time, which is really sad. But with all that in mind, we now have to talk about the music. And the music is pretty good, surprisingly. I actually really enjoyed the music. For the past while, the music has been kind of lackluster when it comes to the non-theatrical or direct-to-DVD films, but here they actually managed to not only bring back a couple of Elvis songs, but they also brought back some really cool Hawaiian culture music to be in the background, which I really loved. And of course, since this is the finale to the TV show, I like the fact that there are a ton, and I mean a ton, of Easter eggs that harken back to the original show. Along with a bunch of minor characters who show up in just one episode, they still manage to show up in this movie, which is really cool, like Pleakley's family. So we also have to talk about the story, which in my opinion is really good and honestly a perfect finale for the main franchise. So it talks about how Lilo and Stitch have managed to find and capture and turn all 626 experiments to good. And then they went so far as to bring them to the one place where they truly belonged, where they can be happy and live normal lives without destroying society as we know it. And of course, there are a ton of returning experiments from the TV show, but there are also plenty of brand new, never before seen experiments that show up as well. Of course, when you're also dealing with over 600 characters, there's gonna be some copy, pasting, minor tweaking, stuff like that. Heck, even Timon and Pumbaa show up as additional experiments. Yes, it's intended to be a fun cameo more than anything, but honestly, that might be how the Timon and Pumbaa TV show is canon. It's not about Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King, it's about a couple of scientific experiments that just so happen to look like them. Anyway, back to the main story. So, the Galactic Federation has decided to congratulate Lilo, Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley on capturing and rehabilitating all 626 evil experiments from Jumba. During an award ceremony, they're given a bunch of, awards. Lilo is granted to be Earth's very first ambassador and the primary caretaker of the many experiments. Jumba gets the keys to his old evil lab back, though he's supposed to not be doing evil experiments. But honestly, I'm pretty sure that he's gonna be doing some evil anyway. Then there's Pleakley, who is offered a job as a professor at a university. And then there's also Stitch, who is put in charge of the BRB 9000.
What's BRB stand for?
Big Red Battleship!
Of course, that technically means that Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley are going to leave Earth and move to outer space, leaving Lilo all alone. And at first, Lilo is a little hesitant to say goodbye, and she wants them to stay, and they willingly agree to do so. But then Lilo realizes that they are sad that they're staying, and she decides to let them leave, showing true Ohana spirit. Just because nobody gets left behind doesn't mean you force people to stay. So Lilo says goodbye to her Ohana and then goes about taking care of the experiments. While that's happening, Gantu, who has been trapped on Earth in a broken spaceship for the past 3 years, has been trying to fix his spaceship now that there's no more experiments to capture. Unfortunately, he just can't get it working, so he decides to take the jump ship instead. He realizes that since he doesn't have a job, he needs to find a new way to secure his future. So he says goodbye to his kind of lazy best friend, Experiment 625, and then he goes up in a jump ship so that he can go to prison and rescue Jacques von Hamsterville, at which point he will assist Hamsterville in his evil plan. And while that's happening, Stitch is given his first mission as captain. He is going to track down Hamsterville and bring both him and Gantu to prison. At the same time, Pleakley is learning that while he is a professor at a university, he's not going to be teaching any classes. He's not even going to be able to brag about his Earth studies, and that's really sad for him. So he decides to call up Jumba, who is also sad. See, Jumba was limited to the primitive Earth technology back on Earth. Now that he has access to his lab, he is able to create any kind of experiment that he wants. Unfortunately, he realizes that after 3 years of living on Earth, he's all alone. And then Jacques von Hamsterville breaks into his lab and orders the creation of a new experiment. At first, Jumba tries to refuse until his life is threatened, so then he ends up lying to Pleakley about how he never wants to see Pleakley again in order to protect him. And so Jumba begins production on a new experiment, one who is based off of Stitch, has his powers and abilities, but is also incapable of turning evil, and instead of blue fur, he has red fur. Now, you might be thinking this is Experiment 627, but you're wrong.
Why not just call it 627?
You already made 627.
I did?
627 was already a character in the original TV show, so there's that. Also, 628, even though he only showed up in pod form, was also in the TV show. So technically, Leroy is Experiment 629. Also, Leroy was the name made up by Jacques von Hamsterville when they decided we should get rid of the numbering order. Luckily, before Leroy was made, Jumba managed to play some Elvis music and put it into Leroy's genetic code. Now that's going to come back later, but unfortunately that's when Stitch decides to show up and he ends up trying to capture Hamsterville, and then unfortunately during the battle, Pleakley shows up and throws the whole thing into chaos and makes it so that Jumba, Stitch, and Pleakley are all captured and they're put on a spaceship with an autopilot set for a black hole. Yeah, they're going to die. While that's happening, Lilo is back on Earth missing Stitch and the rest of her Ohana, and she tries to make an intergalactic call. Unfortunately, she doesn't have an intergalactic phone, so she decides to go to Gantu's spaceship and meet up with Experiment 625 and ask him to help her make the intergalactic communicator on the spaceship work again. And, well, after a while, he reluctantly agrees, especially when Lilo gives him the new name of Reuben.
The classic corned beef and sauerkraut on rye. Reuben. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, despite being the second most popular experiment aside from Stitch, he didn't have a name. He was just Experiment 625 this whole time. But now we have Reuben. Anyway, Reuben gets the intergalactic video call working, and they contact Leroy, who is pretending to be Stitch, but luckily, Lilo realizes that this Stitch isn't wearing her tiki necklace that she got Stitch, and so Leroy is acting a little weird, and so they put two and two together. This Stitch is not Stitch. So they need to go on a rescue mission to find the real Stitch. And, well, what I really love is that Reuben is able to make it so that the crash-landed ship is able to start working again. But I'm just thinking this whole time he could have done that. He just sat there watching Gantu try to struggle with fixing the ship for the past 3 years, and he did nothing. I mean, it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I just feel so bad for Gantu. Really shows the commitment that his best friend had. Anyway, back to Hamsterville, who is now cloning Leroy into an army, and now that he has an army of Leroys, he uses them to take over the Galactic Federation and becomes Emperor of the Galaxy. And his first decree is going to be to head over to Earth and destroy the only threat that is able to take down his empire. Jumba's evil, but now turned good, 625 experiments. Lilo ends up going to his office trying to find the councilwoman, but again, he kind of got rid of the councilwoman by demoting her to a desk receptionist. And so Lilo and Ruben end up captured, and that's when Hamsterville decides to fire Gantu, because since Leroy is able to capture the 624 experiments back on Earth in a matter of mere hours compared to Gantu, who's been trying to capture the experiments for the past 3 years, and well, Gantu is fired once again. And this time he has a talk with Ruben about how you need to have some aloha spirit. The more aloha that you give, the more that you will get in return. And well, Gantu really brushes this off at first, but then literally a minute later, he ends up realizing he made a mistake and decides to free both Lilo and Ruben and work with them to take down Hamsterville, somebody who, for the past 3 years, has been abusing him, firing him, rehiring him, and still abusing him and making fun of him and demeaning him. And now he is ready to work with the good guys. And while all that's happening, Jumba, Pleakley, and Stitch are still heading towards a black hole, and they're about to be sucked in and killed. And that's when Jumba says they can change the course of the black hole to make it so that they just teleport to a brand new location if they manage to hit it with a rock of the exact weight that they need. And well, luckily Pleakley has a rock from Earth given to him by Lilo, and after Stitch manages to make it the exact weight they need by biting into it, they fire the rock and make it so the black hole will now, instead of destroy them, teleport them to a new location where they will be safe. And they just so happen to land right in the middle of the Galactic Federation headquarters, where Lilo, Ruben, and Gantu are trying to escape from the army of Leroys. So the two teams get on board the spaceship, at which point they fly to Earth, where Hamsterville has assembled the 624 experiments and is going to kill them in an arena with a super mega plasma cannon that ends up being destroyed when Stitch and Lilo and the gang show up. So, Hamsterville and Leroy assemble their army of Leroys, and thus a battle ensues where it's the army of Leroys versus Stitch's Ohana, made up of Lilo, Pleakley, Jumba, and his many, many cousins, and even Gantu is on their side now. But during the battle, they realize that the Leroys are just too powerful, and that's when Jumba remembers that he programmed in a defect in the Leroys. By making it so that they listen to an Elvis song called Aloha Oi, they will actually start having a glitch, just like Stitch had a glitch back in the second movie, you know, the direct-to-DVD sequel. So the film ends with the Ohana having a concert of Aloha Oi and making it so that the Leroys all malfunction, and Hamsterville ends up getting captured, the Leroys are captured, and the Galactic Federation is restored, and once again, Lilo, Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley are hailed as heroes. And this time, they actually choose to stay on Earth. While Pleakley did want to be a professor at a university for his whole life, he decides that he would rather be on Earth rather than just not talking about it in classes. Jumba, even though he wants to use alien technology to do his experiments, realizes he doesn't want to do them alone, so he goes back to Earth. And Stitch, well, even though he wants to be captain of the BRB, he realizes that his one true place is with Lilo, and he wants to stay there. So the Grand Councilwoman decides to offer the job of the BRB's captain to Gantu, who is very happy to get his old job back, and now he's actually proven that he can redeem himself. Sure, this whole time he's just been doing a job. It's not his fault that the job happened to be a bounty hunter, but now he's on the side of good, and for once, life is finally going Gantu's way, and I no longer feel sorry for him. I mean, a little bit, but then he also makes a condition that he wants his lieutenant to be none other than Ruben, Experiment 625. And thus the two friends are brought together and Ruben is given his one true place. So now all 626 experiments have found their true place. And the film ends with them all taking a big family photo. Oh, and what I really love is that one of the experiments, Gigi, aka Experiment 007, is actually Myrtle's dog. So Myrtle was actually kidnapped along with the other experiments, and she got to witness the alien drama that unfold. And now she realizes that even though Lilo is a little weird, she is still pretty cool. And she reluctantly decides to be Lilo's friend, finally, even if it's only so Gigi can hang out with her cousins. And that's the end of the movie and the Lilo and Stitch franchise in general. Well, except for the Stitch anime and the Chinese TV show that would come out later, but I'm not going to touch on either of those because they're not streaming on Disney Plus and I can't find the anime anywhere. But with all that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and what do you guys think of this movie? Be sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and also, who is your favorite experiment? Mine would probably have to be Angel because now it's official that she and Stitch are a couple, and that's really cute. But with all that in mind, make sure that you subscribe so that you can keep an eye out for when I review the live-action remake, which comes out today. Also, make sure that you join my membership program if you want to help support the channel. And with all that in mind, make sure that you're staying safe out there, and I will see you all in my next video. And as they say in Hawaii, aloha or bye-bye.
I think that went very well, don't you?
Actually, sir, I think...
I didn't ask what you think.
Actually, you did.
It was a rhetorical question. Don't you know what a rhetorical question is?
Yes, sir. I believe it's a...
No, that was a rhetorical question too.